Father, send me. This is the prayer that the Church of the Nazarene has prayed from the very beginning as she sent her people into the world, a world that desperately needs Christ's transformational love. Today, we are part of a global movement in which God is actively redeeming His creation, restoring the broken through His beautiful gift of salvation offered to all. We have been called to partner with Him in this movement. This is why Nazarene Missions exists, to share His love, compassion, and peace as we start new Nazarene churches around the world. Entire communities are being transformed through the partnerships and relationships developed by our local churches. Nazarene missionaries are partnering with local ministers and lay leaders to bring restoration, share the gospel, and build sustainability within these communities. As each church body is developed, Nazarene Missions provides ongoing resources that help the church be effective in ministry and outreach. Our partnership ensures that the local church has a collective and immediate impact, an impact that will last for generations to come.
Welcome to today's mission lesson. It's been a while since we've met, and it doesn't look like it'll be anytime soon where we'll be able to meet in the church. So Pastor asked if we could try it this way. So we want to thank Mario for all his help in all the technological knowledge he has and presenting the lessons. So next time I was going to maybe ask Mario if he could maybe Photoshop me, but we'll see next time. We're going to talk about persevering prayer. The scripture is 1 Thessalonians 1, 2-3. We always thank God for all of you and continually mention you in our prayers. We remember before our God and Father your work produced by faith, your labor prompted by love, and your endurance inspired by hope in our Lord Jesus Christ. So we're going to be talking about stories from Thailand. Thailand has a capital called Bangkok, which has 8.3 million people, so it's a huge city. The World Meteorological Organization named Bangkok as the hottest city in the world. On average, Bangkok registers a higher temperature than other cities around the world. Bangkok also has the longest name of any place in the world according to the Guinness World Book of Records, and that would be its Thai name. So they had it in the book, so I cut out the pieces and kind of stapled them together just to give you an example of how long this word is. I'm not even going to attempt to say it, but this is just to show you how long this word is. So it's really, really long, but I can tell you what it means translated. It means city of angels, great city of immortals, magnificent city of the 9 gems, seat of the king, city of royal palaces, home of gods incarnate, erected by Vishvakarma at Indra's behest. So that's what that long old word means. The Church of the Nazarene. We started in Thailand back in 1989, so really it's fairly new, considering they have a population in the whole country as of 2018 of 66.6 million people. We have 2 districts, 31 churches, and over 1,600 members. So there's still a lot of potential in this country, as we can see. Now, we have many different ways to share the gospel through missions, and we do that through Faith Promise, Alabaster, deputation offerings, compassionate ministry collections. But there's also, we have to remember to be as generous with prayer as we are with these other resources. And that's the focus of this lesson, is prayer. God wants to raise up persevering prayer warriors who do not have to see the results to know that God answers. Sometimes it's frustrating when we can't see the results of what our prayers are going for, but we need to continue even though we don't know what happens. The most important reminder is that God called people to pray. So we want to remember that the idea to pray for someone or anyone or anything comes from God. It can be anything from a nudge, a whisper, an awareness to a pressing urgency, or some cannot be ignored message. Since God's the only one who knows the worldwide needs, he dispatches the help, and that's how he does it, is through these means. God, we know, also is a missionary God. He's on a worldwide search and rescue mission. And the more we connect with God's heart for his world, the more sensitive we would become to his call to pray. We would be sensitive to know when he wants us to pray. It's not difficult to cultivate this kind of sensitivity, but it doesn't come automatically. It is something that we need to work at. There's a man called E. Stanley Jones who was a Methodist missionary to India, and they often called him the Billy Graham of India. And he really believed in prayer, and what he learned he taught to others either at retreats or through published materials. One of his quotes, he says, is, "Prayer is not an occasional exercise to which you turn now and then. It is a life attitude." And he also said that if he had one gift and only one gift to make to the Christian church, I would offer the gift of prayer. Everything follows from prayer. So we know that prayer is very important to Christians and should be. So one of our stories is about Elisa Lehman. She only knew 3 words in Thai when she arrived at the Mae Tang Tribal Children's Home, and she was there for a 3-month assignment to teach Bible-based English lessons to 65 children ages 5 to 10. The church sanctuary is where she usually met because of such a large group, but it was scheduled for a pastor's training class this one day, so she had to find a new location. So she decided she was going to use the basketball court. But when the children all gathered there, she realized she didn't know how to tell them to wait until she went back to the classroom to get her teaching supplies, because she knew they would just follow her wherever she went. So she thought it was pointless to go back to the basketball court. So they ended up staying in the room that was really small. So what she did is she stood on a chair before the 65 children, and they all sat on the floor. And they filled every inch of the 6 by 8 foot space. So it was really small. But they were all mesmerized for the whole 45 minutes that she talked, even when the electricity went out. Parents were coming and looking through the window, and they couldn't believe their normally wiggly kids were sitting so still and attentive, and she was even amazed. Well, anybody with kids knows that's quite a long time for kids to go sitting still. So she thought, wow, she wasn't even sure how that happened, but she got the answer a week later when she got an email from her mother, because her mother was asking her if everything was all right. And she told her that God woke her up at 4 a.m. with an urgent nudge to pray for her daughter. And it happened again at 6 a.m. And Lisa calculated the time difference and realized her mother had been awakened at exactly the times when she needed to make a quick decision about how to adapt to unexpected changes. So her simple need had been covered by prayer even when she didn't ask for it. For Lisa's mom, it had been an interruption to sleep, but for Lisa, it was a big answer because of prayer. The pastor or reverend of the Bangkok First Church of the Nazarene is Reverend Tanogsak. After a Thailand district family camp back in 2014, he and his wife felt convicted that they had neglected church prayer meetings for several years. So they recommitted and set aside a time for the church on Thursday nights. And of course, at first, for the first few months, it was really small. They only had 3 to 5 people, but they didn't give up. They knew prayer was the most powerful tool God asked them to use, and their perseverance eventually paid off. Within the next year, they began to grow, and by 2016, they were averaging 15 to 20 people gathering to pray. So we know that only some things can only come by prayer, just like Jesus taught, and this church believed in that. Now, Lisa Lehman, the person we mentioned in the earlier story, is a missionary. She shares this story in her own words. The Oikos Church of the Nazarene is also located in Bangkok near the largest open university in Thailand. Pastor Ponam had invited 4 youths to join the worship band, wanting to connect them to the local church. One afternoon after a worship practice prayer time, one of the boys asked the pastor how he could know Jesus. As the pastor answered his question, all 4 of the boys chose to pray in faith to receive Christ. That was a catalyst that encouraged the whole local congregation, primarily made up of young adults, to become active, Christ-like disciple makers. So it required even more prayer. So we can see how in Thailand, these examples, how prayer can be essential and how it's needed. Often we think about prayer as if we are the ones who decide to pray, but prayer is God calling us. Prayer is our opportunity to respond. Sometimes we know why we're called to pray, but sometimes we don't know, just like Lisa's mother didn't know why she was praying at 4 and 6 in the morning. Sometimes we hear about the answer and sometimes we don't. I know we've had missionaries and they've told us stories about how they have found out later that there were churches or an individual who was nudged to pray for them at a certain crucial time in their lives. There's a interesting question in here, or challenge. What if we checked in with God about how He needs us to pray as often as we check for messages on our phones? Now that's a good one. We'd be asking God for, or checking in with Him about His needs a lot. Persevering prayer is a 24/7 opening we give God. We're like volunteer firefighters involved in daily routines until God calls. Sometimes we can pray through the daily routines, but sometimes we have to just stop and pray. We need to put away the idea that persevering prayer is for the persevering few. It's not. It's for everyone. We need to enlarge the circle of people who go the distance by listening for God's call. Nothing we ever do for missions or missionaries will ever match what God can do when we never stop praying. In fact, we have our banner in the church that says, "Prayer, the key to victory." We have to remember that. So that's all I have for tonight, except I want to remind everybody I did get new missionary books. Captain Peters requested them, so I got them. She's already read them. There's 3 of them. I'm on the 3rd one. Once I'm done with them, I'll bring them to church, or we'll figure out a way. You can contact me or the pastor, and we'll pass those around either if you come into church on prayer meetings or on Sunday at the drive-in church. There are 3 great books. One is about stories from the Middle East, one is about human trafficking, and one is about a story about Wanda Knox, a missionary to Papua New Guinea. I'm not sure if our Captain Peters knew her. I think she was before her time there. But they're great books and always a joy to read. So we'll see you until next time. Thank you and goodbye.
Now he was telling them a parable to show that at all times they ought to pray and not to lose heart, saying, "In a certain city there was a judge who did not fear God and did not respect man. There was a widow in that city, and she kept coming to him, saying, 'Give me legal protection from my opponent.' For a while he was unwilling, but afterward he said to himself, 'Even though I do not fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow bothers me, I will give her legal protection. Otherwise, by continually coming, she will wear me out.' And the Lord said, 'Hear what the unrighteous judge said. Now, will not God bring about justice for his elect who cry to him day and night? And will he delay long over them? I tell you that he will bring about justice for them quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?" In this parable, Jesus was teaching a valuable lesson about perseverance in prayer. What does it mean for each of us to persevere in prayer for our missionaries and the work of missions around the world? Your persevering prayers are invaluable to our missionaries as they carry out the mission of making Christ-like disciples in the nations.
You and I are vital to this movement. A movement that is answering the call to make Christ-like disciples in the nations. This is only made possible through your prayer, your partnership, and your generous sacrificial giving. Nazarene Missions is a movement of God through the people of God.